Welcome to Live from Mars. My name is Alex. You may know me as Mars from TikTok, Instagram, this podcast even. That would be amazing. Hope you guys had a great weekend. From the highlights of this week's New Music Friday into what's happening at Coachella 2025, that is going to all be covered in this week's episode of Live from Mars. So I hope you guys are ready to talk all things Lana Del Rey, Lady Gaga, Charli XCX, and more. And before we kick things off, this is your reminder. If you are not already subscribed to the podcast, if you're not already following the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're consuming it, please make sure you hit the follow button. It means the world to me. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can throw the podcast a 5-star review. But getting the housekeeping items out of the way, this was a really crazy week to be a music fan between all of the pre-Coachella hype, getting to sit down and watch a bunch of these sets during the live streams on YouTube. Coming through this week's New Music Friday releases, including some favorites of mine being from Lana Del Rey, her new single, Henry Come On, we're going to talk a little bit about, and all of the new news that Lana shared with us about the upcoming album. We also have new music from Bon Iver. So enough introductory chit-chat. Let's kick things off with this week's New Music Friday highlights. All right, so just like every week on Live from Mars, I'm going to share with you guys some of the new music that I found this week. Some of it came out this week, some of it came out maybe a while ago, and I just randomly stumbled upon it from my Discover Weekly playlist or a random playlist I had on Shuffle. So there are two big ones that I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on, those being the new Lana release and Bon Iver. And then after we talk about those, I'll go through my liked songs playlist on Spotify and pull out some ones that I came across this week that I want to put you guys onto. That's kind of my organized but semi-unorganized way of making sure that I'm keeping track of the new music I'm listening to every week. But let's start off with Lana Del Rey's Henry Come On.
Henry, come on. Do you think I'd really choose it? All this off and on. Henry, come on.
So you just heard a little snippet of Henry Come On. This is the brand new Lana Del Rey single that was essentially announced the day that it came out, the day before it came out. It all happened very quickly. There's a bunch of lore that goes into this song's history. So back in January 2024, Lana actually released a snippet of a song that we now know is Henry Come On. And that snippet is pretty much exactly what you hear in the opening moments of the song. Henry Come On seems to be the first single off of whatever this upcoming 10th Lana Del Rey album is going to be called, because, spoiler alert, in last week's episode, I made a whole little diatribe about how we never know when Lana's albums are actually going to come out, if the title is going to stay the same, if things are going to change, and what do you know, in classic Lana fashion, they did. Lana's 10th album that was supposed to be coming out in May was originally called Lasso, then it got changed into The Right Person Will Stay, and when announcing Henry Come On, Lana posted on her honeymoon Instagram account basically saying, "You guys know the album's not actually coming next month, right? And should I also tell you that the album's not actually called The Right Person Will Stay anymore?" Well, what do you know? That's it was incredibly predictable to the point that I predicted this exact situation last week. So we still do not know when this new album is coming. We still do not know what the name of the album is going to be, but we also know that we're getting a new song called Bluebird, I believe, this coming week. So stay tuned for more on that one. But let's talk about Henry Come On, because I actually really enjoyed this song. And I sound a little bit surprised because the Lana Del Rey that I usually tend to gravitate more towards, other than like her very early work, I'm talking like OG Born to Die era and Ultraviolence, the more mid to late career Lana right now, the music of hers that I've enjoyed more than any other is when she goes on these like relatively experimental rants, I like to call them in music. A song like Venice Bitch, a song like A&W, where they are 7+ minutes long and transform into different songs throughout the entire duration. And those are the ones that are the most creatively intriguing to me as a listener and also as a huge music fan and fan of Lana's artistry. So now Henry Come On, being this 5-minute country orchestral-esque ballad, doesn't really fit the bill of the kind of Lana music that I choose to listen to on a regular basis. But I really enjoyed this one. It's reflective, it's poetic, and you can feel the country influence without it being so obviously on the nose. You're seeing, because of the rise of country music over the last 2-3 years, a lot of artists that were not actually country artists are now creating country music to help appeal to a new audience, tackle a new genre, show their diversity and skill. Some have been more successful in their ventures than others, but what Lana did on Henry Come On, and granted, this is just the first taste that we're really getting of this country Lana outside of her cover of Take Me Home Country Roads and a few little things here and there. This makes perfect sense for Lana because everything about her career, really since its beginnings, have tied into America, American culture, the art of Americana. Ever since her first album, Born to Die, you have songs like Off to the Races, Blue Jeans, video games, Diet Mountain Dew, National Anthem, radio. Like, there are so many moments of Lana tapping directly into American culture and American pop culture moments, not only on her early work, but also throughout her entire career. You literally got that on last album's A&W. What Lana's doing here is still tapping into American culture, but this time doing it from like a Western perspective, where an album like Norman fucking Rockwell was tapping into California aesthetic. And it does feel like a natural progression of Lana's artistry for me, so I am intrigued to see where this is going to continue to go. It's getting great reviews across the board. Pitchfork actually named it this week's best new track, which is a huge honor coming from Pitchfork. This is, I believe, the 6th Lana song that has been deemed best new track, in addition to A&W, Venice Bitch. So it's putting it on this very high pedestal. I personally don't think it's necessarily up there with those two songs and the others that have been designated best new track, but we'll have to wait and see how this one ages. Pitchfork actually called it Lana Del Rey's delicate interweaving of the divine and the mundane. They highlight lyrics like, "Yesterday I heard God say you were born to be the one," and note the moment her voice breaks on the word fly away as reaching the sublime. And then right after this is the lyric that ends the chorus. The second verse starts with, "I'll still be nice to your mom." Like, it just go classic Lana to have this big ethereal moment and then just following it up with something like, "I'll still be nice to your mom." It's just like so Lana, and I love her for it. The production here is incredibly strong. I love the way that these orchestral strings really take the song forward. So that is Lana Del Rey's Henry Come On. I'm excited to see what Bluebird is going to sound like if we actually end up getting it next week. We will have to wait and see what Lana's album is going to be called, when it's going to come out, but don't worry, I'll be covering that when we officially know the details. All right, next up is Bon Iver's return and his new album called SABLE, fABLE, dropped on Friday.
And I'm right at home. And damn if I'm not climbing up a tree right now. And everything is peaceful and riding.
So this was actually a two-part project where the original EP, the SABLE part of the album, was released back in October 2024, and it very much marked a return to the Bon Iver that I personally fell in love with, that many people fell in love with, returning back to the indie folk stylings of his early days, like For Emma Forever Ago, and the self-titled album Bon Iver, Bon Iver. The SABLE section was very moody and dark and kind of depressing, and you have a song like Speyside, which was one of my favorites of 2024. Very minimal production, very airy and like ethereal vocal stylings, beautiful, sparse, like very much contained in its very tight little universe, and I loved it. Now we have fABLE, which is kind of bringing color back to this black and white world, which if you're looking the album up and you see the album artwork, you see this tiny little black square surrounded by this pretty pink, peachy kind of color, and that to me beautifully represents the album SABLE fABLE, where the SABLE part is the smaller introductory portion where it's very tight, very dark, and then the whole world opens up like a world full of color, welcomes back Bon Iver, and it's really good. It's really, really good. It's honestly the first full Bon Iver project that I've sat down and listened to numerous times in a long time. It's joyful and soulful, leaning a little bit more into R&B, a little bit more poppy, while still really retaining what makes Bon Iver Bon Iver. To me, the biggest benefits of listening to a Bon Iver album are twofold. One, his incredible lyricism. It's so deeply visual. If you're a fan of Taylor Swift, you're a fan of his song Exile with Taylor, you're definitely going to find something on this album that you enjoy. The other piece of it being how unique his vocal tone is. He has one of the deepest, most honestly scary kind of tone that you probably weren't expecting when you're listening to a Bon Iver song, because the opposite end of his voice is this super high falsetto that is so captivating, is like the only word that's coming to mind. It's really impressive that he has the range that he has and is able to carry out different emotions and evoke them based on which part of his voice he's using. Songs specifically that I really enjoyed on the SABLE section was Speyside, which I already mentioned, and then on disc 2, aka fABLE, the ones that really caught my eye were Everything is Peaceful Love, which was originally released I think back in February as the quote unquote lead single from this new album. And then I really loved Day One, that's featuring Dijon and Flock of Dimes. And then the song From that comes right after it is stunning. And then lastly, there's a rhythm, but rhythm is spelled wrong. And it just like really irks me to look at the title, but the song itself is great. Some reviews here. Pitchfork praised it as a quote, genuinely surprising pop and soul record from an artist who has spent half a lifetime searching for new modes of expression. I believe they gave it an 8.1 out of 10 or an 8 something, which is really high for Pitchfork. If you guys know, you know. Rolling Stone called it a bold and beautiful departure, his most emotionally direct work since For Emma forever ago. And Stereogum noted Bon Iver's sonic evolution here. Quote, it's adult contemporary in the most daring way. Vernon embracing vulnerability, clarity, and brightness like never before. And this is a sharp departure from the more experimental sound that he had been tapping into in his more recent work. My first thought was to call it an autumn album, like a fall record that you would throw on. Probably something that would fit really well on my Maroon playlist. But then there's also parts of it more so on the fABLE section that are alive and spring-like and feel like they're youthful and have so much energy to share. So definitely recommend checking out those songs I highlighted and the entire album if you're looking for a new album to check out. And then I promised you guys some individual songs that I've been favoriting over this last week. A song that kind of fits into the Bon Iver mood. It sounds like a little bit of a mixture between Bon Iver, Noah Khan, Khalid, if I can throw that in there. The song is called Find Your Own by Humble the Great. Randomly stumbled across this on my Discover Weekly. Very much fit that same vibe. I then came across a song called Shadows by Talia Ray. Talia has 95,000 monthly listeners, so she is up and coming, and this is an opportunity to get onto someone before they blow up because this girl's voice is so good. It's very soulful. It's a beautiful ballad, Shadows. The lyrics here really got me, so definitely recommend checking that one out as well. And then the last one I'll leave you with is just continuing to drive home how much I love Joe's new album, The Crux. I can't stop listening to it. The ones I've been on repeat are Potion, Fly, and Egg. And that is our New Music Friday roundup. So are we ready to talk all things Coachella? Because I am. We're going to talk all things Lady Gaga and Charli XCX's Coachella sets because those are the two performances that have me in just a state of complete awe. Now, while unfortunately I wasn't able to make it out to the desert this year, I am watching all of these streams, which I honestly may prefer a little bit because the camera work on some of these performances is so good. And that really came through on Lady Gaga and Charli XCX's set. So let's kick off with Gaga because she was Friday night's headliner and is the story of Coachella this weekend, pretty much, and probably the story of Coachella this entire year, unless something completely drastic happens, which I don't expect to be, because this set was one of the best live performances I've ever watched. And Lady Gaga came to the table in full force, better than she has been in probably a decade, to bring mayhem to the desert. No doubt in my mind, it's one of the top 3 best Coachella performances ever. It also very well may be one of the best live performances in pop music over the last, I don't even know how many years. And in my mind, we'll get into this, nothing beats Beyonce's Homecoming. But this came as close to it as you possibly can without pretty much being Beyonce. So let's get into the show because it was spectacular. So I would say the thesis statement of this set was that Lady Gaga basically gave a sneak preview of the Mayhem Ball, which she's kicking off this tour in the coming weeks, in a captivating, show-stopping 2-hour-long performance. It was theatrical, it was incredibly gothic, and it was absolutely unhinged in the best ways possible. Critics are raving about this. Multiple publications are giving it a 5-star review, including The Guardian, who called it a fully realized vision of a pop master and one of the best the desert has ever seen. Rolling Stone described it as, quote, transformative, saying Gaga cemented her status as a once-in-a-lifetime pop icon. And Billboard wrote, quote, the show may have been disguised as a concert, but what took place was nothing short of a carefully crafted commentary on fame and performance. I purposely wanted to highlight these 3 reviews because I think they perfectly encapsulate the vibe and basically where I'm at with this performance. This was not just a concert. This was full-on performance art. A spectacle worth dissecting in all of its layers. Let's kick off with the stage design because this immediately had me in my, I couldn't believe what I was seeing when the show first started. She brought this medieval gothic kind of castle of sorts to the desert stage. It reminded me of the staging for the Born This Way ball, if you're familiar with it. It kind of looked like a satanic medieval prison, especially the introductory act, which I'll get into in a second because there's so much to talk about with this run in particular. But it kind of felt like the entire show was a commentary on the themes that Gaga has described the album Mayhem to be about, where for so many years she was afraid to return back to the pop of her quote glory days, and on Mayhem, after so many years of being in this state of just pure anxiety and fear, she finally confronted the fears head on and went to create a pop album again for the first time in a while. Granted, you have Chromatica that definitely tapped into pop, but that was a more 90s leaning house record, whereas Mayhem is essentially paying homage to Lady Gaga, the pop star. And this intersection between who Lady Gaga is as a person, aka Stephanie Germanotta, versus who Lady Gaga is as a pop star, as a celebrity, is directly at the center of both the album and this live performance in full force. The opening moments of this show sent chills up my entire spine when I first saw it. Lady Gaga enters the stage in this giant, like probably 20 feet tall dress, essentially, performing an even more haunting version of her TikTok smash hit Bloody Mary. If you had said to me back in 2011, 2012, that Lady Gaga would be opening a headline set at Coachella in 2025 with Bloody fucking Mary, I would never have believed you ever. But that is the world we're living in. It's the way that Gaga took Bloody Mary, embraced the theatrics of it, and went right into Abracadabra, which in my opinion, I still think is the best song on Mayhem. It's one of my favorite releases of this entire year. It's one of my favorite Gaga songs of all time. But the thing that got me more than anything else from Lady Gaga's headlining performance at Coachella was the transition between Abracadabra into Judas and then from Judas into Shiza, which was also from 2011's Born This Way album, never released as a main single in the US, and has been consistently performed by Gaga because she knows it's that song. These transitions were flawless. It flowed perfectly from song to song, and it really helped bridge together Lady Gaga's musical journey to date. Some other performances that completely captivated me were Poker Face, where Lady Gaga basically plays a game of chess choreographed against her former self. A lot of Mayhem songs got their stage debuts during this performance. Some of them that really wowed me were Garden of Eden, where Gaga is walking down the catwalk playing the guitar. You have Killa, which she performed live with Gustaffelstein at Coachella. She also performed it at Saturday Night Live, moving throughout the entire studio back then and now taking over the whole desert. When Gaga just gets into the camera and screams and just destroys the shit out of these drums and cymbals, it was so raw and fun and freeing to watch an artist who has been doing this for over 20 years, mainstream success for almost 20 years, having the absolute time of her life performing this new song that I would argue most of the people in that crowd did not know, but you didn't need to know it because of just how much fun Gaga was having. You immediately enjoyed the ride as well. I really liked the stylistic choice of stripping down paparazzi. I thought bringing in those orchestral strings there was really strong and also played into the narrative of both the performance and Mayhem of what it means to be a celebrity, what it means to be Lady Gaga the star versus the person like we talked about. That directly ties into Perfect Celebrity, which got its stage debut, which is one of my favorite songs from Mayhem. And back to what I was saying about how it's so cool to be watching these on the live stream because the camera work was so good. Watching her perform a song like Perfect Celebrity and Disease, where she was essentially in this like graveyard sandbox with other skeletons that were actually dancers, and I didn't realize they were other dancers for a while, I'm afraid to admit it. But the camera work was so strong, it felt like I was watching a music video for Perfect Celebrity and another music video for Disease. She did a little bit of Die With a Smile, which would have been great to have, I think, in a more full version, considering that's like arguably one of her biggest songs of all time. She just did her verse and one chorus and then called it a day, but that's one of those songs that she's going to be performing probably for the rest of her career, so I don't blame her for moving quickly past it today. For Zombie Boy, Lady Gaga and her dancers were dancing with skeletons. It felt a little cheesy, but other than that, the rest of the show was phenomenal, especially the closing two songs. The penultimate song was Vanish Into You, where she left the piano on the end of the stage and walked throughout the entire crowd back up to the main stage, vanishing literally into the audience. And you can just see how alive she was to be with fans, an artist who is so deeply connected to her fan base, having this opportunity. So cool to watch. And then Bad Romance. Bad Romance closed the show. It was one of the best performances of Bad Romance she has ever done. And it's one of those songs songs she's done. I don't even know how many times at this point. The staging, the costumes, the choreography, everything was perfected. Perfect, 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 perfect. I really do feel the following. That one, this was Lady Gaga's best performance she has given in probably close to a decade. When I went to the Chromatica Ball, to be completely honest, back in 2022, I don't know if it was the seats I had. I was in the 100s at a stadium. I wasn't so close to the stage, but I was close enough to the stage where I've been in those seats for other shows, and I honestly didn't feel the connection that she had during that performance. It felt very weird to me that for the first few songs of the performance, she was completely restrained and not dancing to songs like Chromatica songs that deserved to be danced to in full force, and they weren't delivering that energy. I did feel like something was off during the Chromatica performances, and to see Lady Gaga in 2025 at 39 years old giving this level of energy, this level of star power, this level of creativity was absolutely captivating to watch as a fan who's been watching her for almost 20 years now. Number 2. This was hands down one of the best headlining performances in Coachella history, and I have watched my very fair share of Coachella performances over the years. This was one of the very best, if not up there with Beyonce. I'm very curious to know what you guys are thinking of the Coachella set, so make sure you drop a comment and let me know what you're thinking of it, because this is going to be one that I'm going to be rewatching probably at least monthly for the foreseeable future, at least until I see the Mayhem Ball in August. This was something truly special. Right, shall we get to Charli? All right, so Charli XCX performed on Saturday at Coachella and was not actually a headliner, but it kind of felt like she was, and that is the theme of Charli's performance. Simply said, it was raw, minimalist power. There were no dancers. There were no distractions. It was just Charli up there owning every single second of her stage time. The set list of the show very much reflected the set list that Charli has been running with throughout the Brat tour that's already kicked off and will continue to make its way throughout the US this year. But what stood out to me more than anything throughout her entire hour-long performance was how she was able to captivate an entire crowd full of at least 100,000 people, it looked like, with herself. And that to me is the proof of a real superstar. Her performance brought the magic of Brat summer and what Brat became in 2024 to the desert, embracing the messiness, embracing the party girl aesthetic, not giving a shit what anyone else thinks, and just having the absolute time of your life. What's so cool also is that Charli is not an artist who seems to want to sacrifice anything in her art. She remains authentically true to who she is, the music she's creating, the aesthetic that she's putting out there. She literally had a red Solo cup in her hand while performing Apple on stage Saturday. It was hysterical. She brought out 3 surprise guests that we have seen pop up from time to time throughout the Sweat and Brat tours. The first of which was Troye Sivan to perform the Talk Talk remix, which is one of my favorite remixes from the remix album. They've been friends and co-headliners for so long now that their energy is just like perfect, unmatched. It doesn't ever need to be touched. It's so euphoric and beautiful to watch as someone who's been watching both of their careers for so long now. The second guest was the one that I was personally most excited for, which was Lorde, who came out during Girl So Confusing. The remix is on the remix album. And this is right after Lorde has started teasing new music coming in the next few weeks. She released a snippet of a song that is believed to be called What Was That the other day. Charli actually teased after Lorde and her finished the performance that we're about to have a Lorde summer. So I'm really excited to see if they have anything in store for us then. And the third special guest was Billie Eilish, who came out with Charli to perform their collaboration called Guess. It's also crazy to think that this was Billie Eilish's 5th year in a row performing at Coachella. And she first had her big stage debut at Coachella in 2019. And it's crazy to think that now 6 years later, she's essentially a veteran who's coming out. The most powerful moment of the entire show had to be the ending, where a bunch of quotes were put on screen. It was a very candid outro where Charli basically admits that this has been the best thing that's ever happened to her, how she's so afraid of Brat Summer and Brat coming to an end because it's really changed her life, that she's fearful of not knowing what's going to come next, the pressure that it entails, but just how much fun this moment has been is worth celebrating. And it was just really cool to see an artist who was at the top of her game after so many years working to be in the public eye, to be a name that is known, to have a moment like she did with Brat, to be that vulnerable on stage in front of over 100,000 people, to basically say, like, I don't want this to be a flash in the pan. I want this to be something that continues on. And with the people who were there, who were clearly there to support her, it really holds like it's going to continue to be this incredible train of success for Charli. And I truly can't wait to see what she has up her sleeve next, because I do feel like she is one of those few artists that is truly innovating, changing the game, forcing people to be uncomfortable with music rather than just hearing another earworm on the radio, create something that is truly a testament to bold artistry, taking creative risks, and trying out something new. And if you like it, amazing. If you don't like it, she doesn't give a single fuck. So it was incredible to see, and I really can't wait to see what comes next. But those were the two highlight performances for me. I also got to see a little bit of Joe's performance after raving about his album The Crux. I love watching him live. Who else did I see? I saw a little bit of Lisa. There were a few other artists I saw little pieces of, and I'm going to continue to watch more and more. But if there's anyone who had an incredible set that you're like, Alex, you need to tune in and react to this and watch this, make sure you drop a comment, let me know, and I'll check it out. And that right there is our show for the week. Before we go, a little sneak peek at what is coming next week on Live from Mars. We are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Taylor Swift's The Tortured Poets Department. It's crazy that it's been out for a year already. It feels like this album has been out for a lifetime already, but I'm going to need your help for this one, and let me explain how. I'm going to be diving into, maybe with a special guest you may recognize, I'm going to go deep into the Tortured Poets Department through the anthology, going through some of the best songs, the songs that have not aged so well, and where this album lands in Taylor's greater discography, what it means for the upcoming re-recordings, what it's showing us about the direction Taylor is heading in musically, favorite lyrics, burning questions, and that's where I need your help. If you have a hot take or a burning question for me about the Tortured Poets Department, I want you to send in a voice memo to me at vinylbymars@gmail.com, asking your question or giving your hot take, and I will include it in next week's episode of Live from Mars, where myself and maybe my special guest will be reacting to what you said. So again, that email address is vinylbymars@gmail.com. Email me a voice memo. I cannot wait to hear them. And again, if you were not already subscribed and following the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening, please make sure you do that. It means the world to me. If you're feeling generous, leave a 5-star review. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next week for a fun episode down memory lane. Bye.